Facing the threat of protest, President Obama gave the commencement speech at Notre Dame yesterday. He acknowledged irreconcilable views between the two camps on abortion rights. But in our fourth story in the countdown, he also sought common ground. He may have delivered his mantra for future battles, including the one bound to be waged over his first pick with the Supreme Court. After weeks of buildup, there was a large group of anti-choice protesters at the front of the gates of Notre Dame yesterday. But inside the Joyce Center Arena, the 12,000 in attendance interrupted the president 25 times with applause and or cheers. Mr. Obama had to stop his speech just once for a scattered protest, and after the protesters themselves were loudly booed, the president quickly incorporated the shared discomfort.
We're not going to shy away from things that are uncomfortable sometimes. Now, since
President Obama devoted one forthright portion of his speech to the issue that had caused some critics to demand that he not be allowed to speak at Notre Dame.
That's when we begin to say, maybe we won't agree on abortion, but we can still agree that this heart-wrenching decision for any woman is not made casually. It has both moral and spiritual dimensions. So let us work together to reduce the number of women seeking abortions. Let's reduce unintended pregnancies.
The president adding that adoption should be more available and that health care policy should include a, quote, sensible conscience clause. More on that presently. The president was also at times blunt, quoting, the fact is that at some level, the views of the two camps are irreconcilable. But in addressing the sharp rhetoric surrounding abortion, Mr. Obama not only pleaded again for common ground, but also laid out what might be a mantra for future battles.
But surely we can do so without reducing those with differing views to caricature. Open hearts, open minds, fair-minded words.
Let's turn now to Washington Post columnist, senior fellow at the Brookings Institution, E.J. Dionne. Good evening, E.J.
Good evening. It's good to be here to seek common ground with you, Keith.
We often find it. The president has, by now, established something of a pattern of dealing head-on with the uncomfortable topics that fall off the truck in front of him, or sometimes that he pulls off the truck. How did he fare this time, do you think?
I think this is one of the best speeches he's given in his presidency. I think that it was not guaranteed that he was going to take this head on. The other way to do it would have been to give a standard kind of speech on some other topic. I think he was under a lot of pressure, particularly from moderate and liberal Catholics who supported him, supported President Jenkins of Notre Dame in inviting him. And I think it was a remarkable speech. It's really the first time I think Obama managed to speak fluent Catholic. A lot of his language came out of Catholic social justice thought. He did talk about reducing the number of abortions. He talked about the conscience clause. He cited some important Catholic heroes, particularly the progressives, people like former President Hesburgh of Notre Dame, Cardinal Bernardin. And I think that the right wing, if you will, of the church put a big bet on this, and they lost. They really helped Obama by heightening the attention given to this. And I think at the bishops' meeting next month, there are some bishops who are going to speak out, who were silent here but didn't condemn Notre Dame, may have quietly supported Notre Dame. I think you're going to hear from them. Up to now, you've only heard from the more conservative bishops. The sensible conscience clause, the president said we should honor the conscience of those who disagree with abortion and draft a sensible conscience clause. That kind of legislation, the idea of it has been hugely controversial to the degree that it would allow certain health care workers to refuse to participate in what would be legal abortions. Was the president making news here, or was it an attempt at a concession? What was that in there for, apart from the reasons that you already outlined? I think it was simply a clarification. There were 3 laws on the books already that give doctors and nurses who have a moral objection to abortion the right not to participate in abortions. And I think it would be hideous to force them to. I think people who are civil libertarians have to recognize their right not to participate in abortions. The controversy is over a conscience clause written by President Bush that was so broad that some people think it might even give pharmacists the right not to not to deliver birth control pills. So I think what he did here is he clarified that he's narrowing Bush's conscience rule, but he's not going to eliminate it where when it comes to protecting the religious rights of providers on abortion.
Many analyses of this speech yesterday, E.J., suggested that we got a hint about the Supreme Court nominee in there. Did we?
I'm not sure. I think that, there's a reason. I think what Obama would like to do is appoint somebody who is broadly liberal or progressive, but is respected by conservatives and would have the capacity to build majorities on the court, not someone who is perceived as far out and therefore couldn't win allies, but someone who's genuinely progressive, could win over allies, and also temper conservative majorities on the court. That's my hunch of whom he will pick, and I think that's the kind of person he should pick, because I think that would advance progressive causes more than somebody who couldn't persuade his or her, it's going to be her colleagues.
Well, that gave us a hint right there, too. E.J. Dionne of the Washington Post and the Brookings Institution. It's always a pleasure, sir. Thanks for your time.
Great to be with you.